Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations with Co-Creators of a New World. And indeed, there is a new world being co-created inside us, in our hearts, in our consciousness. I'm Kathleen Hanagan, and I'm your host for this series, which is to celebrate the birth of my book, my first book, Love Seed, the Template for Birthing a New World. And I've gathered together amazing people, and one of them today is, like when I read Pamelah's bio, I think, how could anyone do this? Today, I am very honored to have Pamelah Landers, who is a world-renowned handwriting expert, not handwriting, but hand reading, reading the palm expert. And I'm going to read her bio right now, which I think goes on and on, but this is a short version, right? I received a certified hand analyst degree in 1992 and a graduate degree in 1993 from the International Institute of Hand Analysis in Sausalito, California. In 2004, I became a master hand analyst, having read over 15,000 hands to date. That's to become the master. Now it's over 51,000 hands, which puts me in the expert category. I think so. To date, I've written 11 books, 75 autos, and I'm the #1 international best-selling author of hand analysis products. Wow, Pamelah.
Thank you.
It's amazing to be so devoted to something. And I think that relates to the piece I'm going to read that I picked out today to relate to what what we kind of co-created for you to speak about. And just speaking to you before this, I realized that you talk about the sweet spot too. And I picked out an excerpt that talks about the sweet spot. So,
that's so funny.
Yeah. So, and I know that so many of the people listening are people who are like, what am I called to do? What am I here for? Probably it's one of the biggest aches in people's hearts these days. If you're tuned in any way to what's going on and what's needed, and to know what's yours to do, no more, no less, right? And that is what Pamelah can really help you with. So I'm going to read this excerpt from my book, and then we're going to get started with Pamelah.
Okay.
This is from a chapter that I call From Karma to Dharma. So from like your wounding to your calling. It's really what it is. You could say that your Dharma is expressed in the sweet spot where what you have been given, your fate, meets free will, which is what you do with it. To live your Dharma, you must exercise your sovereign free will, which means you take full responsibility for every facet of your life. This means you have ultimate power. It's really powerful when you think of that. Sovereignty lies in the choices we make day to day. It's a capacity and a quality of your soul inherent in who you are. The source of your sovereignty is your love seed, and you can see how much it's related to your Dharma. It's as if we each have a manifesto inside, the insistent urge of the divine to express itself through us. If you are human, you have been called. The only answer that will fulfill you is yes. And you must express yourself. You must take a stand for something, or you will fall for what is not real, get caught in shoulds and rules of the culture, and remain blind to your own greatness. To fulfill your Dharma, you must become a messenger of love. By being fully who you are, you contribute to oneness on the planet. And that's what I chose, because I realized that what you're doing with people all the time, 51,000 people, is to realize who they are.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that is an awesome responsibility. And you have a map, right? And
yes, everyone does.
Everyone does, right? Everyone does. What drew you to doing that work? Because I'm a therapist. There are a lot of therapists. There aren't that many people doing what you're doing the way you do.
No, there aren't very many people doing hand analysis. Well, it was a calling. I just have to say, retrospectively, I didn't know it at the time, but in 1991, when I went to a networking breakfast in San Jose, where I was living in the Bay Area, I heard a man talking. I had heard about him from a couple other people, and he's a hand analyst. I thought, well, this is interesting. I'd been doing astrology for like 20 years by that time and longer. And so I was very familiar with the metaphysical world. I studied numerology, had looked at tarot, not so interested in tarot, not really my thing, but numerology was interesting, and I learned a lot about that. So I was well steeped in the metaphysical world.
Yeah.
And then I just was like, oh my God, I have to learn how to read hands after I heard him talking. Like that's literally what my body went. You have to learn how to do this. So I went up to him after and I said, I have to learn how to read hands. He gave me his card. He said, call me, we'll talk tomorrow. We got on the phone and talked for an hour the next day. And 2 weeks later, I was in a weekend intensive at my house that I was hosting and learning how to read hands. Wow. It was a calling, basically.
It was a calling. I asked this question of almost every one of our co-creators, and I can't tell you how many times I hear that word, that like something happened. I heard a mantra and it woke me up. Or I heard someone speak and I went, whoa, that is kind of a hallmark of a calling. And not, it doesn't happen for everybody that way, but for some people it does. So, I mean, I kind of consider you a colleague. I do consider you a colleague, right? I mean, I'm a therapist. I do my thing. I'm reading people. You're reading people. And you're reading something very specific. Tell us a little bit more. And also, I know that what you've talked about, and I want to just go back to that, is how your own personal economy, you are your own personal economy in all aspects.
Yeah.
So, yeah, let us know what that means.
Okay, so your hands, everybody's hands are different. If you look at your hands while you're watching this, you'll notice, and if you want to look at yours, Kathleen, your left hand and your right hand are not the same exactly.
No.
There may be lines that are kind of different on one hand than the other, and
yeah,
or the length of your fingers may be different or whatever. There are going to be differences between your left and right hand. Well, take that and exponentially look at everybody in the world whose no two hands are the same on their own bodies, let alone everybody else's. And I've read so many hands, I know this is true. I know there are no two hands that are exactly the same. So the value of knowing this to me is that you have a design. You have a design, and here it is. And the same design shows up in your astrology chart or your human design chart in a different language, in a different way. Right. It shows up in your numerology chart. You are you. You have a soul agreement, and all these systems interpret and decode that soul agreement that you have about who you are. But that's why you look the way you do physically. Why no two people look the same, even identical twins have differences, because there's a soul agreement, and your body is a reflection of it. So this is the microcosm, right? And even people who read hands. There are people who are not trained in the system that I'm trained in, who are palmists, who read hand, and they come up sometimes with exactly the same information, but looking at the hands in a different way, because the soul map is the soul map.
It's amazing. So you've actually realized that from people that maybe went into a palmist and got a reading, and then they got a reading. Wow.
Well, and also from doing astrology for 20 years, I think it was really helpful, because in the beginning I was doing a lot of translating back and forth between hands and astrology, because I could.
Because you could.
And I realized, and then there was somebody in the year-long class that I took to read hands who was a face reader. So I learned from them what they were looking for on face reading, and there were a lot of crossovers, right? So I just was like, oh, all these systems are decoding, but they're different language, but basically there is a theme that emerges for everybody, regardless of the system that's being used. So I love that, because that means everybody has their own design.
Yeah. And
this is where most people get in trouble in relationships, is they're hoping somebody else is going to live the same design that this person is. Like, no. This causes a lot of conflict in relationships.
It really does.
People want other people to live like they live, and it's like, no, your design is your design. You have to do your design.
I love that. I mean, I know a little bit about human design. I know astrology. But never I know I do my thing in depth, like you do yours. So I don't do all those in depth. But what I put on my wrist, I don't know if anybody can see, a few years ago, it says, remember the design. And
Good.
I
Perfect.
decided to put it on my wrist because in case I forget and I'm really old, I can look down at it and it's actually facing me. And the reason why that was important to me, because it's like visible, right, is that the older I get, the more I realize my design.
Mm-hmm.
And and the more committed I am to not stray from my design. And that doesn't mean like that I'm becoming rigid. It means that I accept things about myself. And
Right.
that is part of being sovereign, right? I mean,
Yes.
I'm good at this, I'm not good at that. And claim
Right. And not trying to fit into other people's pictures about who you should be, could be, need to live up to. Like, this is where most people get into trouble. So that's where the self-sovereignty comes in. The whole purpose to me, like, this is like my favorite part of what I get to do with my life, is help people become self-sovereign, because I grant them permission, and I have my special wand that I use when I'm doing webinars with people.
Yeah.
And I've done it in personal, is to give people permission to be true to their design and be self-sovereign in that. That's like what I do. That's my job, basically, is to help people decode their design and have permission to be true to it. And they tell me all the time that they love the permission. Like, it's not like you don't know. You know.
Right, you know. You're
with
just
yourself.
being granted permission to be what you know you are. It's like,
Yeah, exactly. But people need that.
yes.
People need that, because there are a lot of people in their life who are trying to get them to be different.
Right. It's like somebody is just naturally a musician and their father and everyone in their family was an attorney. And they go to law school and they get sick.
And they hate it.
And they hate it.
Kind of like John JFK Jr.
Ah, really?
He had to go to law school because his mother wanted him to, but he didn't want to be a lawyer, and he didn't do much with lawyering.
Yeah. It's
right.
Yeah,
he was an artist, really. He had very artistic.
He was an artist and a king, really. I mean,
yeah.
His energy.
But he had to go to law school, so whatever.
Yeah. So you do the handprints of famous people, and that can help people relate. Maybe it'd be helpful for you to share like the different, like what you're looking for when you look. I know something that was really significant when I had a reading from you 6 years ago, at a time when I was really struggling. Mm-hmm. And that's when a lot of times you have people reach out to you because they're struggling. Right. You're looking for an answer. And you recognize my queen energy, right? And but I can go back and I have notes from it, and there's so much. But for whatever reason, this is what I remembered that stuck with me, that changed something in me. And that is that you said, and that I'm a queen, have a lot of queen energy. I kind of demand that people treat me that way. And like let's say in business, or going like with calling Comcast or something, or in situations where I need customer service, right? Mm-hmm. And that the dark side of that can be that I can be really indignant, and I can be intolerant of people's mistakes, which is not my normal self, right? But when I'm in my queen self, right? Like that part of me.
Well, the student path of your queen self.
The student path, that's what I meant.
Yes.
The shadow part, the student part, which is really important. Let's talk about that. The student part and the master. And then yet the other part of me that's queen is like, I just watch out for the queendom. I'm really conscious of everybody. I really care, and I'm, and that part of me wouldn't do that. And that when I'm in the student part, I can be that way. And it changed me. That for whatever reason, that permission. It gave me permission to be more tolerant, more gracious, which queens are gracious, mm-hmm. To bring the graciousness when I was really frustrated. Well, that's made a difference in a lot of places in my life. And that wouldn't be what I think of all the things that you told me, that would be what, but
well, I'll tell you why I think it probably is so significant, because you've probably always felt that, but nobody has ever seen it, and you were giving you permission to be it. But you're designed to be it. You're designed to be royal.
Yeah.
You're designed to be the queen. Why would you want to play that down? Because everybody can see it in you, and they're confused when you don't express it.
When
it's
I
very
when I
confusing to them.
express the student version of which is really kind of bitchy.
Yeah,
You know?
it is. Yes, not fun.
Well, let's talk about the student and the master. Like, that's really important stuff, right?
Okay. So every marking in the hand has a student path and a master path. The master path, you're not always on the master path or the student path. You kind of go back and forth all day long.
Yes.
By the way. And so it isn't like you reach the master path and you never have to do the student path again. No, that doesn't happen. But you can spend more time on the master path than the student path. So the master path is when you feel good and you're in flow, and the student path is when you're in resistance and you're not.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And it doesn't feel good for you or anybody else around you.
No, it sucks. You don't like it, and it sucks. And I got that from listening to Abraham talking about being in the stream of well-being or not being in the stream of well-being.
Yeah. The vortex.
Right? And that's exactly what it is. Well, even before they were talking about the vortex language, that this was in the 90s, before they were even in the vortex conversation. So they were talking about being in the stream of well-being or not. And I thought, well, that's exactly what happens with hand markings. You're either in the stream of well-being, master path, or in the student path where you're in resistance or not in the stream of well-being. But that's kind of all there is, right? You're either in it or
polarity, right? And that's in the Enneagram or in
everything. It's everywhere. Everything. It's universal law. So it's
universal law of polarity. And we have those, and so people sometimes people will come to me and they'll say, like, I'm usually a really kind person. I've been like biting everybody's heads off lately. And I'm like, inside I'm going, yay, okay, good. We're getting to something real. But I don't say that to them, but I mean, but in a way I say, well, that's good news. There's some other part of you that you're needing to look at, right?
Right.
And that's what your work does. Tell us, sovereignty. So express it again, because and I've written a lot, like in different parts of the book about sovereignty, and it's not a word. It's not a really household word yet, but it's in certain circles it is. How would you describe it again?
Well, to me, self-sovereignty, the bottom line of self-sovereignty is self-love for me. That's the deal. But there can be on the way to self-love, because a lot of people go, I don't know what self-love is. I don't know what you're talking about. It doesn't mean
no idea. Right.
So, okay. So how are you doing with self-acceptance? How are you doing with self-kindness? How are you doing with self-tenderness? Like, how are you treating yourself? What's your mind chatter? This is the thing that is the life-changing, is paying attention to how you talk to yourself in your head. Are you being mean to yourself, or are you being kind to yourself? Like, where do you want to, because you can't be self-sovereign and be mean to yourself.
You can't.
You can't. It's just not possible. So in the parts of your life where you're being mean to yourself, you're not self-sovereign. The parts where you're being self-loving and kind and tender and sweet and accepting and appreciating and all of that, you get to be self-sovereign, because you don't argue with it. You don't resist it. You don't push it away and, oh, go away. I don't want to deal with you. Like, so embracing the shadow as one language, or embracing the student path, or taking ownership and appreciating and embracing are my two favorite words around this. The parts of you that you have a hard time with, the only way to get to self-sovereignty with those is to embrace them and admit them and face them and admit you have it. Like, I'll tell you a great story around this. Last decade, I was taking voice lessons, and I remember one day I was feeling really jealous of one of the singers. And my teacher said, I want you to spend the day feeling jealous. So I was on my own little world for about an hour. And I was just feeling everything I could feel jealous about. I was in my own little world, conscious, and I was crying sometimes and laughing sometimes and just having my own little experience of jealousy. And after about an hour of that, I went, oh my God, trying to pretend I'm not jealous, it sucks. So what really works is just owning it and saying, in some circumstance where something's going on, I'm feeling really jealous about that, right? Because I don't have to pretend it's not true. It's like one of the 7 deadly sins in the Catholic Church for some reason. I don't know why, but it is. And I didn't grow up Catholic, but I know people who do. And so it's like this horrible thing, but it's not horrible. It just needs to be embraced.
It's human.
Like everything else. So whatever your shadows are that you embrace, and it's an ongoing process, and you don't do it once and never have to do it again.
Yeah.
But whatever your shadows are that you embrace, which is your hands will tell you what they are, then you get to have an easier life. It's so much easier to be self-sovereign. It's so much easier because you get to be in charge of your world and you're not trying to live somebody else's vision, desire, living up to the potential. This makes me crazy. Living up to somebody else's vision of your potential. You can just let go of all of that. Just say, no, that doesn't work for me. It doesn't fit. I'm not willing to do that.
Yeah.
It sucks. It hurts. It's hard.
It's a felt sense of this is who I am and I accept it.
Yeah.
And I always say like that you were referring to the voice, right? We call it the inner critic or whatever you want to call it, the gremlin. But this is a moment like of aha. It was for me. And then when I watch my clients with the aha, that voice in your head, it's always making you feel like you didn't do enough or you didn't understand. That is not the voice of your true self if it makes you feel bad.
No.
Your true self never makes you feel bad.
Never.
But if you do something to hurt somebody, your true self will say, go clean it up. Right? It's not going to like say you're fine and that was okay. It's a beautiful barometer for who you really are. And so that voice is not real. And it's real. I should not say it's not real, but it's the one
it's not helpful.
It's not helpful. It's not helpful. And everybody has it.
Yep. So you have to learn how to pay attention to it. You have to know when the voice of self-meanness is there. You just have to learn how to discern it and find something else to focus on when the voice of self-meanness comes in. You say, you don't get to be mean to me right now. I'm not accepting meanness right now. This doesn't work in my life. There's no self-sovereignty in meanness. Go away.
You know what? One of the speakers that I've spoken to, he said he named his voice a name, right? And he suggests giving a name. So I started doing that with clients. Like one woman's name, the voice of her inner critic is Melva. Isn't that cool? Like,
yeah.
and that it's just so that you can relate to it as opposed to identify with it,
right?
And let it take over you, which is the opposite of freedom and liberation. We want to be that aspect of our being that goes, oh, there's my selfishness again. There's my fear coming up there's my playing small, but without judgment, right? I mean, just be okay with it.
But even I just have to stop this conversation about playing small because that's somebody else's judgment, somebody else's vision, somebody else's design, somebody else's design trying to project onto you, and it's just crap. So please don't talk about playing small.
Yeah, it's true.
It's mean to talk about playing small.
Yeah. Well, it's horrible for us to squish ourselves, but sometimes people can be doing so much and they think they're playing small. It's the voice that tells us we're playing small. But
who cares? If playing small is a measurement that somebody made up, is my point.
Yeah, I get it.
It has no relevance to your life. So just take it out of your vocabulary.
Take it out.
That's my suggestion.
Take it out. It's really about being real and being true to yourself more than that.
Who knows what your calling is and what your design is and how many people you're supposed to reach and what that way that works. It's nobody else. Nobody can make that up for you.
That's so profound, really.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know. And so people come to you and they want to know that they have this greatness and they're supposed to do all these things and maybe the truth is that their true greatness is and I write about this actually in the book about my mom of raising 7 children to be all good and honest and kind human beings, and this is in the chapter from Karma to Dharma, and she was just overwhelmed. It was like in Boston, freezing cold, slushy, February, March day. She's driving through with the family station wagon with the school bus sign on the top. She's driving for a Hebrew school to make extra money because there are 7 kids, and they're trying to get us all to college, right? And she's overwhelmed. She's exhausted. She has to go home and cook. She has to actually go food shopping on the way home. And she says, she puts out a prayer because she was raised Catholic. She says, am I doing what you want me to do? And she heard a voice say, not only are you doing it, you're doing a great job. That raising those 7 kids to be good and kind
Right.
is the work of your
Exactly.
life. That was like, yeah. And I
exactly.
put that story in my book because, and I asked my mom about that. I said, when did you know? Then when did you really feel that you knew your calling? And that's what she told me.
Yeah.
And it's been true. She has greatness.
Right.
Not many people know about her, but a lot more people are going to know about her now because she's in my book. So
Right. And it doesn't matter because her calling isn't to be well known. Her calling is to raise her children.
Yes.
In a way that nurtures everybody, right? I
Yeah.
mean, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
We've just got to stop this comparative language because it sucks. It just destroys people to compare themselves to anybody else.
Yeah.
Vision, idea, strife, way of life, how it should be. It's just destructive to live like that.
It's all about comparison. I remember when I was in college, Sri Chinmoy, I don't know if you know Sri Chinmoy, he was a musician, and he had a beautiful album, big album cover. You remember those?
Yeah.
And he was a very spiritual man. He was from India, and he had on his, and I remember, like, it's funny what we remember from like years and years ago. He had a quote on his album that said, "Comparison cripples the mind."
It does.
And I wrote it down in my little book that I kept all significant quotes. And I have, like, it's helped me so many times in my life when I felt envy or less than, and then said, snap out of it, Kathleen. Are you doing all you really need to be doing? Because really, you're the one that needs to know. There's no litmus test out there, really. And there isn't. There's no barometer or litmus test or like standard that you're supposed to meet. And that's what sovereignty.
Because no, you have your design.
Yeah.
You have to be, your biggest measurement is, am I doing my design or not? Like, that to me is the only place to do any kind of conversation is, what am I, it's not even that, is what am I doing in relationship to my design today? Because I also believe the fingerprints are formed 16 weeks after conception and they never change.
16 weeks?
16 weeks after conception, they never change. This is the soul agreement, your fingerprints. Or your soul agreement. And the rest of your hands can change, the line can change, the shape of your hands can change, but the fingerprints do not until you die. So the experience around that is, you're given a design that you've agreed to, right? This is no accident, the body that you've chosen, which is a whole nother conversation, but you choose the body.
Yeah.
And you choose the life purpose and the life lesson, which is what the fingerprints tell us. And you are designed to live these things. You have the skill set to live these things. So there's no reason why you're not. And my experience is everybody is doing something. Everybody is doing something towards their life purpose on a regular basis.
I believe
there's
that.
no way you can't.
Yeah.
I just think it's impossible to think you can't. But people feel like they're not, but mostly because they don't know the language for it, or they have a very limited language for it, or they don't have a vision for what their life purpose is, or they don't give, mostly, they're mean to themselves and they don't give themselves credit for what they are doing to accomplish what they're doing every day.
Yeah.
It may not be big enough or whatever enough that they have made up.
Or as big as their brother or their older brother or sister, or that comparison, and that's what undermines sovereignty.
Yeah.
More than anything.
No self-sovereignty and comparison.
None. I think of my friend whom I live with. I've done a wonderful experiment in a group living with 2 other women and a little boy and my dog. And it's been awesome. Never thought I would have done that before. But I'm changing as I get older. and one of my wonderful friends and housemates is a romantic par excellence. Like, I have never met anybody so romantic. And I'm like kind of romantic, but Like she is so, and like I watch her and I'm like in awe. And I could never keep up with her, you know.
Not supposed to.
No. And,
Yeah.
and so like learning those qualities, do you want to say what they are, the like the different kinds of, like the different archetypal energies that come through?
Well, the hand is complex, just like our lives are, right?
Yes.
So, as I said, the fingerprints identify purpose and lesson. There's a line in the hand here that's closed, that goes across the hand, either curves up or straight. That's called the heart line. It's how you express your feelings, and it's kind of your relationship monitor in terms of how you communicate what you're feeling. Then you have a headline that is how you solve problems and how you think.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on the length of these and the direction, are they curvy, are they straight, are they long, are they short, tells me information about how you deal with each of those lines, right? Those are the two major lines that pretty much everybody has.
Yeah.
And then the third one that almost everybody has is the lifeline, which is here, which has to do with stamina, and it has to do with family and tribe, your relationship with your family and tribe. So depending on how that looks will depend on what I tell you about that. All of the rest of the lines are optional.
Yeah. And they change, right?
They can. They don't have to. I have lines that have never changed and lines that have. So, and then there's a category of lines called gift markings, which is what is just the most interesting part that people come to me for. Gift markings are line formations in the hands. They're usually 3 lines that intersect at one point, creating 6 points. That's mostly what they look like. And they sit in different parts of the hand. Gift markings are extra potential talent. So it actually adds more pressure to your life to have gift markings, but people are curious about them. And when you have gift marking, you can feel it. You can feel like there's this hand pressing on your back, moving you forward in some direction, but it helps to have details about what that means. And this is to me, one of the things that people come to me the most for is getting some understanding about their gift markings. And that's the books that I've written on gift markings are my best-selling books.
Yeah.
Because people are so curious about, I went to a hand analyst and they told me that I have this gift marking and this gift marking, but I can't find any information on it. Well, I'm really the only one who has information on it.
Wow.
Because nobody else is writing about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, there are a couple other people who've written a little bit about it, but not very much, but my books are really in depth. So those are those are like, okay, extra potential talent. Oh, I'm gifted.
Responsibility.
Yes, there is a responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah. And not everybody has gift markings.
No, only about 10% of the population has them. Almost everybody who comes to me has them, but I attract a lot of people with gift markings. But in general, I mean, if you looked around the world, most people only have 3 or 4 lines in their hand.
Yeah.
Different places they'll have more, and they'll have a lot more going on. But there are a lot of like indigenous places and tribes and stuff. They don't have very many lines in their hands. Their lines are not very complex at all.
Right. Their gifts are just part of the culture. It's not standing out and somehow,
Right.
But so when you have a gift marking and you find that out, which you that's one of the gifts that you give people is saying you have that, right? 1 or 2 of them or whatever. And let's say somebody just doesn't move in that direction. They do something, get caught in an addiction, or like they don't fulfill that aspect. They don't realize that part of them. What happens for that person?
They don't come to me. The people who aren't, so I can't answer that question because the people who come to me are usually doing something related to their gifts.
Yeah.
I just don't attract people who are not doing stuff related to what's in their hands. I just don't attract those people.
Yeah.
They may go to other hand analysts, but they don't come to me. So I don't know how to answer that question.
Yeah, that's interesting because the motivation to come to somebody like you. I know I was struggling with having left my role as a psychotherapist, and I was drifting for a little while, and that's when I reached out to you, and eventually, well, obviously I came back to my call. I returned to my calling because I felt horrible when I wasn't.
Right. Exactly.
and obviously my calling, there's more, and I keep going and I wrote the book, and there's more, but I reached out when I was lost, because I was hungry to know. And that's those are the people you attract. Yeah.
People who are in some kind of transition. Yeah. I would say not necessarily lost, but they're in a transition and they know they're in a transition. Yeah. They want to leave the corporate world, or they want to start their own business, or they want to get out of their own business and go back to the corporate world, or something big change has happened in their life and they're in a place where they have more choices than they used to have, and they want to know what their hands are telling them about the direction.
Yeah.
And what they're designed to do, what they're designed for.
Does everybody, when you speak to them, mostly go, oh, like recognize it? Or is it?
Yeah, I've only once, out of all the people I've read for, had someone who denied what her hand said. Most people know the truth about who they are. Yeah. They're not surprised, but like I said, there's a huge permission, because either they didn't have a language to describe it, or they didn't have a permission to express it full out, like you didn't get your royalty. You didn't have your full royalty expression, and now you get to do that, right? So it's just whatever it is that they take away, which may not be what I think they're going to take away. I'm not sure that I would have said, oh yeah, this is what Kathleen's going to remember, right? I don't know what you're going to take away.
Just putting it
but
out.
I do trust whatever my intuition. I'm very intuitive, so I trust my intuition a lot about what conversation needs to happen, because that's what's really up. And the hands will tell me that, as well as my intuition about what part of the hands to go to, because usually there'll be something that'll just jump out at me and go, talk about me, talk about this line, or talk about these fingerprints, or whatever, right?
Yeah, yeah. What are some of your gifts, Pamelah?
Some of my gifts?
Yeah.
I've got 13 of them, so I'll just tell you the two that I use the most. Yeah. I have one called Lines of Genius, which is about decoding and interpreting abstract concepts into an easy to understand language, writing, being a published author, which I am. I use that one a lot. I use it also as a teacher, because I teach classes all the time. So that's the one that I use the most.
Uh-huh.
And the other one that I use the most is the Star of Saturn, which is about being good with managing resources and structures and systems. And I'm really good at setting up structures and systems and managing resources. And I have my student path moments on both of these, believe me, I do. Yeah. But those are the two that I now use the most. I have other ones I've used more in the past, but those are the two that I'm currently using the most.
Yeah. I love that, how you say student path moments. Yes. That's right.
Yeah, because it is moments. It's not all the time. It's not master path all the time. It's not student path.
How many gifts are there?
18.
18, and you have 13 of them.
Yeah, wow. Which is why I could write books on them.
Wow.
I know from personal experience what it's like to have most of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever felt it as a burden or huge responsibility?
Oh, yes. Oh, my God. Yes. Yeah. Yes. It's not now, but it has been in the past.
And self-love is what helped you with that, right?
Yeah, it was necessary,
yeah.
Which is also my fingerprints. I'm in the School of Love in my fingerprints, and so my fingerprints are all about learning to love myself, and that's why I think it's so important. Yeah. It's my design. Self-love is my design.
Yeah. You are, if we talk archetypes, it's the archetype of the lover, and you've used that word embrace and appreciate. And I noted that, notes words. I don't know what gift that is, but anyway, I noted that I always say that deep appreciation is the hallmark of the lover, and embracing someone or something, and it's a beautiful gift.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it humbling, really, when we think of it? I was working with a young man lately, and I'm going to recommend that he have his reading with you, but I turned him on to human design just a little bit, because he wondered why he wasn't like, he thought he should be a rock star, right? And he's projector, he's deep, he's, it's a system, but anyway, it's someone who's very perceptive and isn't like a big rock star in a loud way, And he said, oh, I'm disappointed. And I said, that's so, and you know that, right? You like sometimes you go,
Yeah.
oh, and then you go, oh, and I said, live into it. Here's some more information. Just really live into who you are. He said, what are you? And I said, I'm a projector. And that's what I do in my work. That's how I do my work. And he said, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I get it. And I think it would be really great for him to have a reading with you, because
Thank you.
so seeking. And these young people, I want to say something about those young people right now. I'm blown away by them. You know, I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
say that our generation are really the transitional team of the, you know, transitioning into the new consciousness, and these young people are the
Right.
implementers. And we need to give them the tools that we've developed, like these, right? And so
Right.
you go, oh, okay, good. I'm good to go, right? Like, just like be who you are. The be who you are movement right now is like the most important thing that's going
Yeah.
on, you know, finally.
Self-sovereignty, right? It's all about self-sovereignty.
Right. If you're not a boy and you're not a girl and you're a they, it's okay. Hello, mom, get with it, you know, like we're moving toward unity and all these polarities, you know. So, you know, really, you know, having this gift that you give to people is so beautiful. It really helped
Thank
me
you.
at a time I needed it. Um,
Yeah, thank you.
yeah. Is there
And
any?
it's ongoing too, because it's ongoing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, Pamela, let people know how they can reach you.
Okay. Well, I have a website. So it's my name, PamelaLanders.com. I have an H in Pamela, as you can see on the screen, PamelaLanders.com. And I have a lot of information on that website. And my email is on that website. So Pamela@PamelaLanders.com is how they get a hold of me. I am easy to reach because I check my email on a regular basis.
Yeah,
So,
you're really good about that.
yeah,
It's really good.
yeah.
You're very approachable and very reachable, and
Thank
yet
you.
a treasure and
Thank
treasure.
you.
There isn't
Thank you.
anybody that you know that knows what you know and has the experience, you know, and I really appreciate that. So I really
Thank you.
appreciate you know, just playing with me here in this conversation and just getting the message out, because yes, it will help you if you do this. It will help you.
Well, and your initial question about your own economy is based on your design.
Yeah,
How you create income is based on what you're designed to do, and how you run a business, if you're an entrepreneur, is based on your design. I teach classes on that on a regular
yeah.
basis.
So a lot of entrepreneurs do come to you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
almost, yeah, most of my clients are entrepreneurs.
yeah. And there are people that know they have some kind of calling, mission, whatever you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you
Or
so
not.
much.
They may not know. Yes, but thank you also for having me on, Kathleen. It's been
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah. And many blessings to you. I
Thank you.
appreciate you.
Thank you.